So in case you don't know, which I kind of doubt that with this crowd, I'm Steve Bolia. And and I would like to welcome you tonight for Rob Dorgan's evening with Awakening the Mystic. Just a few things before we get started. Just in case of an emergency, which we hope there is none, the emergency exits are the door in which you came in, or down the hallway, out the back alley, and then you'll be fine. Okay? Whew. So, one more thing. Right now, please silence your phones. I will wait. Da, 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 da. Okay, but feel free to take pictures. Just no flash, please. And then once you get your pictures, share them on social media, right? So tonight is a big night. This is the launch of a project that's been in the making for 6 years, and we are more than overjoyed. Yesterday we got #1 on Amazon. So it was New Age mysticism, and actually also LGBTQ+. So yay for us. Let's see. So in just a few minutes, Rob will present a dramatic, and of course it will be dramatic, a sampling of the book. It's not intended to tell a story, but it is intended to inspire you to want to read the book and then tell everybody you know about how wonderful it is, and then you might even want to tell a stranger. So this is definitely a grassroots effort, and the more you help us spread the word, the better the book will do. How can you help, you ask? You can, the good question. You can suggest it to your book clubs, and then know that Rob would be available for either live or call-in conversations. You can suggest it to your local bookstores. You can request it at your library, and at your libraries, make sure you ask for not just the printed copy, but the audio copy as well, and know that Rob read the audio, and it sounds wonderful. La 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 la. Oh, you can also help by leaving reviews on Amazon or Goodreads, even if you didn't buy your book from there. You know what I was going to do? I was going to get like 12 pieces of paper and tape them all together and say, I have just a few things to say. Okay. Okay, so first, we want to give a big, heartfelt thank you to Taylor and Mark McDaniel from Sensation, who were the folks responsible for all of those pre-release videos that we did for the book. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then they're here tonight. He's hiding in the corner over there. And then once they put their magic onto what they're doing tonight and last night, we'll post it up on YouTube, so you can watch it again and again and again and again. I also would like to thank Meredith Hogan and Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini for their gracious offering to allow us to use their version of the Gayatri Mantra. We'd like to thank Tanner Heim Productions for his work with the audio. He did a fantastic job. And we'd like to thank Falcon Theater for their generosity in allowing us to be here tonight. And then, yes. And then lastly, we would like to dedicate tonight's program to Nick Kammermer. Yes, a lovely, lovely young man. In the meantime, please sit back, enjoy an evening with Awakening the Mystic.
have always liked to write. I shared murder mysteries like Murder at the La Brea Tar Pits with my second grade teacher, Miss Ermer, and have kept a journal since I was 9. I wrote for my high school and college newspapers, a thesis for my BA and MA. More recently, I wrote to inspire myself and others through our blog and newsletter. But to write a book, especially a novel, was never a burning passion for me. That all changed on an early Sunday morning in March 2016, as I was driving to teach a yoga teacher training session at Shine Yoga Studio in Hyde Park. I was driving alone in the car, which is in of itself a rarity, and was listening to and chanting the version of the Gayatri mantra you heard tonight. I was zenned out, to say the least. But as I drove an almost deserted Columbia Parkway heading toward Mount Lookout and eventually Hyde Park, I had what I can only call a vision as I drove through the intersection where Columbia Parkway and William Howard Taft meet.
A story came to life in my head that incorporated part of my real life, but was also interwoven with a spiritual fantasy filled with hope. The story and the imagery didn't stop as I drove on towards the yoga studio, nor did I try to block it out. It just kept playing out, more details, more incredible visuals. When I arrived at the studio, it just so happened that my co-teacher said she didn't need me for the morning session, so I went into her office and I typed for 3 hours. I typed as the story unfolded onto the pages in front of me. I had no idea what would come next. Uncharacteristic of my semi-controlling nature, I let what I can only call her flow. I gasped at certain things that I read. I cried at others. And my rational mind kept asking me what was happening. But another part of me, a new part of me, said, surrender. And I did. For the next 3 months, this story consumed me like no other spark of inspiration or creativity I had ever had in my life. I would go to my studio and I would just let it flow. Because I was afraid if I told anyone, even Steve, what was happening, that it would stop. But finally, after about 3 months of writing this kind of memoir-inspired fiction, I did share it with Steve. And I will never forget the look on his face, the questioning in his eyes, yet him encouraging me to keep reading. And afterward, he had as many questions about the story in the process as I did. I was thrown off, I must admit. So I reached out to my spiritual mentor, Sally Kempton, who encouraged me to stay with my muse and to continue the journey. So for the next 2 years, between doing massage, astrological counseling sessions, and teaching yoga, I wrote. Steve and I decided not to share it with anyone because we weren't sure what it was or where it was going. But eventually, we decided we needed some feedback. So we shared the original chapter 1 and chapter 2 with our buddies Mark and Eileen, and they were blown away. Then our girlfriend Carol, she started coming over for monthly overnights where I would read what we started calling the story to her. Carol and Steve were big fans and they encouraged me to keep going. So I would write during the whole month and then present it to them on Carol's sleepover. Then on one of the overnights, a couple years into this process, after I read some new material to them, they both asked, "What are you going to do with this?" Well, that question scared the bejeez out of me because I had written over 200,000 words. And I had no idea what to do with it. In the days that followed, I would go to my desk and I would just be immobilized, trying to figure out what I was going to do with it. But then in 2020, Steve, who I'm going to refer to as my Virgo prince, offered to help me organize. So we plastered the walls of one of our upstairs rooms with white paper and we went to work, cutting, moving, editing, organizing. It was quite a journey. And you'd think, after being together for almost 39 years, that we had reached a pinnacle of closeness. But delving into this creative project, it was so romantic. Most of the time, right, Steve? But seriously, this experience brought us even closer together. We laughed and we cried at the stories that were close to who we are, but not quite. We read some of the drafts that we were coming up with to our friends Michelle and Leslie, Bonnie and David, Kathy and Marianne, and they were all enthralled and they were encouraging. But you see, so much of what was written at that point was very memoir, and we wondered if anybody who didn't know us would get it. By August of 2022, Steve and I put together a 175,000 word manuscript. Thought we did great. We had a list of 5 publishers we wanted to work with. And when our first choice said yes, we were ecstatic. But then they informed us that we needed to reduce the word count from 175 to 110. In the publishing world, it is said that the author must learn to drown their darlings. Well, we thought the reduction of another 65,000 words was going to be a miracle. And the pun is intended there. But the book, the finished book that you will buy tonight, wink, wink, is 113,000, 113. That number, 113, just keeps coming at us. It's with the overall encouragement and love of so many of you that Steve and I are giving birth to Awakening the Mystic, a novel of cosmic love and healing. So many synchronicities have brought us here to this night, and many of you are part of that web. And for those of you that this is your first contact with Awakening the Mystic, you too are now part of the story. We hope in some way you will be forever changed. I love you guys.
Author's note. As you begin this journey, what if we could tap the power of the mind to heal ourselves and others? What if we realized reality is far more than what is tangible, touchable, and provable? What if we looked upon all beings as God, the divine? What if we could tap into the power of the divine feminine to heal the planet? What if we all recognized the beautiful mystery of life? What if we realized all of our relationships are mirrors of the divine love we seek? What if love never dies? What if we are living in a time of revolutionary mysticism? This is a work of fiction with intertwined elements of a memoir. It is instilled with hope for the future of humankind as we move through the unknown. As you read and live and breathe, stay open to the possibilities. Chapter 1, A New Journey. I want to find inner peace. At age 9, that was the first line I penned in my journal. It was a clue to the lifelong intensity that still resides inside me. My parents had recently divorced, and my mother had become the sole support for my brother Dave and me. Working as a waitress, she was gone many nights until midnight. Dave, who was 10 years older, had recently moved out at 19 to explore, grow, and find his way. Alone in the house much of the time, I sat behind an overstuffed chair in the living room waiting for someone. While I was waiting for my mom to step through the front door, I was also anticipating someone or something far more etheric. I had no words for the otherworldly expectations as I huddled alone in my hiding place. But this time of deep introspection at such an early age put me in touch with a vivid world that existed behind my closed eyes.
So for many of you, Chapter 1 will read like a synopsis of my early life. My Catholic upbringing and education, how I dated women until I was in my 20s, and then how I met Steve through our friend Carol in a restaurant where I worked after I left graduate school. The background of the characters of the book contains similarities to our life, but the main characters quickly take on a life of their own. Let me read a little more from Chapter 1 and introduce you to the main characters, Ren Devlin and Sean Carson, and the story of awakening the mystic. Chapter 1, A New Journey. Even before we moved in together, I knew Sean was the soul I had dreamed about as a child, hiding, waiting alone behind the overstuffed chair in my childhood home. Now, instead of hiding, I found solace in his arms when I was fearful. I soon recognized that I could be me with all my self-doubt, my insecurities and emotional ups and downs. He understood my searching nature and my need to find meaning in life. I could cry when inner peace seemed so far away. I knew our love was ancient. We were meant to help each other evolve on this mysterious path of human consciousness. We knew in our hearts that we were united souls, the true essence of what it means to be us, U-S in capital letters. The collective is the ultimate us, but within this macrocosm, there are souls that work to stretch and mold each other. Soulmates, twin selves, twin souls. Over the next 3 decades, Sean and I matured personally and as a couple. Sean accepted my gnawing, insatiable need to feel loved and understood, and I knew Sean's fears and worries and his Virgo insecurities about not being good enough or perfect. We also shared a profound need to understand the mysteries of the universe. Through our constant studies of the sister arts of astrology and yoga, we searched for signposts that helped us understand the maps and the synchronicity that guided us. As we settled into our 50s, we also settled into our lives as yoga teachers, meditation practitioners, and massage therapists. I loved the uncomplicated existence, providing me with lots of time to study and to meditate and to explore the meaning of life through my practices. I felt quite fortunate. In the spring of my 58th year on the planet, I was once again beginning a collaboration with my friend Kate for a year-long yoga teacher training program at her studio in Hyde Park. These trainings brought together like-minded seekers that were hungry to find meaning in life, as well as allowed me to increase my own personal motivation to brush up on yoga philosophy and study new meditation techniques. For me, it was one way to be of service to the many. It was a beautiful web of connection. So, in this training, I had volunteered to teach Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, a text that is the basis for every entry-level yoga teacher training program. The Yoga Sutras are made up of 4 books, or what are called padas in Sanskrit. Pada 1, Pada 2, and Pada 4, pretty easy to understand. What you can obtain from studying yoga, what techniques to do, how to do them. But I found every time teaching the sutras that it was always Pada 3 that would either confuse or intrigue the students. Why? Because Pada 3 describes what are called in Sanskrit the siddhis, or special abilities that you develop by studying yoga. Some people call them superpowers. Pada 3 says, if you study yoga with enough devotion, that you will develop superpowers. Now, I'd read the sutras numerous times, but in preparation for this particular training, I dove even deeper, wanting to come from a place of personal experience. So I set a daily intention to understand this 2,500-year-old manuscript on my deepest inner level. I studied for hours on end, especially the practices of Pada 3. A few weeks before the training began, Sean called me in to our home library. We sat across from each other in these 2 leather brown chairs right in front of our fireplace. Even though I study and practice too, Sean began, I am amazed at how long you can sit in meditation and how deep you can go. Now, I've never been jealous, but your yoga practices, especially meditation, they've become your mistress. Sean bit his lip and he looked down to the floor. Rarely speechless, I was in that moment. I reached for and I lifted his chin. Sean, something is different, I admitted. But it doesn't have to be a choice between you and yoga. Our deep love is what yoga is all about. Sean nodded and he said, you know, I have always supported you on your spiritual quest. Even when you had those wild dreams or visitations of that council during your Saturn return, I didn't question it. But he said, I don't want anything to come between us. Always, I said. Forever, he said back, now with a slight smile. Then, in a matter of days, came the unexplainable moment when what came to life right before my eyes shattered, altered, expanded me. I was forever changed. Yeah, take a deep breath. Okay. So from what I've shared so far, we got a little drama going on, right? One thing I want to just remind you is tonight, whenever you hear me say Pada 3, what word are you going to think? Superpowers. You guys are so good. So for the next few days, our main character has a series of really wild, strange dreams. In one of them, he's flying over Times Square, and he sees thousands of people holding a yogic mudra, which is a hand gesture. And this one that he sees all these people holding is called Abhaya Mudra, which is the fearless heart mudra. Left hand to heart, everyone. Right hand palm out. And while we do this fearless heart mudra, there's a mantra that goes along with it. I'm not afraid of my life. I'm not afraid of my life. Or what is in my heart. Or what is in my heart. Let's do it. I'm not afraid of my life or what is in my heart. So, as fiction writers are apt to do, which I realized when I said this last night is, that's who I am now. Oh my God. Yeah. So, as fiction writers are apt to do, sometimes we superimpose our own life onto characters in certain places. For instance, by the time I was 8 years old, I volunteered to be a server in our parish for most of the 6 a.m. masses. And I also had a reputation for some reason for being extremely responsible. So at that early age, I had my own key. So many mornings I got up early, like hours before I had to be there, and I would slide into the church all alone, and I would hang out in the back with the statues of these 4 female saints. They stood in the back by this spiral staircase that went up to the choir loft. That's my reality. Now, let's hear Ren's experience using that in Awakening the Mystic. This is his dream, of course, based a little bit on my reality. As a child, I prostrated myself in front of Saint Veronica, and I felt myself relax. I didn't feel the need to hide or be afraid. I felt safe in the candlelit church, surrounded by these guardians. Now, in this dream, I walked closer to Veronica. I moved to my knees. Then I lay flat on my belly in full pranam, a gesture of surrender. This scene was familiar and so eerily comforting. As I lay there, I heard a voice. I looked up. The statue of Veronica, now animated, was speaking to me. "We all need compassion," said Veronica. "Learn to first give it to yourself. Then you will be able to give it to and receive it from others. You are beginning to open to the energy of higher love that is inherent in the collective, but is buried deep with her." I was mesmerized and speechless. She continued, "I was drawn by a force greater than fear to face the crowds. I had no choice but to offer compassion where it was needed. If I did it, so can you." At her pause, I stood as I kept my gaze on her enchanting, fully human features. Her eyes were golden brown and her skin was the color of ripe chestnuts. She continued, "Face the coming crowds that represent the doubt, fear, and anger all humans harbor. Have the courage to bring compassion out into the open as a human alternative to hate. Remind all who have ears that all of life is necessary." Her left hand went to her heart, and her right hand reached out toward me as she continued, "All suffering comes from how you perceive your life. Decide, Ren, to make your life a balance of discipline and love, not one or the other. Everything you experience is necessary. Even death, the ultimate human fear, has its place. It brings the sharp beauty of sadness and grief, so you might know the heights and joy of ecstasy. I know you are confused. That is part of the process of awakening the mystic." Her golden eyes continued to look directly at me. "Why am I coming to you now? Because it is time. Find the buried diamond of love in your heart by wiping away the blood and sweat that hide it from your sight. Once clear of illusion, the diamond radiates love. Love is the bond. Love is the silver cord you see. It's the silver thread of love that binds you all together. Remember to trust your visions. Place your trust in the legion of feminine archetypes ready to be heard again. We are the compassion you find opening within yourself, and we are the discipline of your practices. We are both she and he. Continue to follow the path of yoga, apply the effort, do the actions, and bring yourself to a stable, tranquil state of being for the coming journey. Let us all light a candle of love for the world and illuminate the darkness surrounding so many." She paused. Then with a hint of a smile, she added, "Tatra stiatu yatna abhyasa." With that, her human features were once again frozen in plaster. Thank you. So Veronica is a cat. What's that? Oh, sorry. I need all the help I can get. So Veronica, a Catholic saint, is quoting the Yoga Sutras and giving Ren lots of clues to his adventure. But at the time, of course, Ren has no idea what's going on, but he soon will. Now, this next section that I want to share with you is actually chapter 5 in the book that you're going to buy. And this comes right after Veronica's dream. This is also the piece of the vision that I had on Columbia Parkway. And it is from this that the wheels of Awakening the Mystic start to spin. As one character later says in the book, the celestial shit hit the fan. Chapter 5, Forever Changed. After meditation and breakfast, I gathered my notes and books, and I kissed Sean on the forehead, and I headed out to class. As I drove to my training session along Columbia Parkway, traffic was light. The beautiful urban roadway perched on the hillside meanders along the curves of the Ohio River. The early morning sky was ablaze with shades of pink and orange and red as the sun's rays danced exquisitely on the water. The Queen City was waking up. I was in my place of reverence as I opened myself to the beauty of Mother Nature, and I chanted the Gayatri mantra. Om Bhava Swaha. This ancient mantra, whose name means she who protects the singer, flowed from me without pause. Within seconds, that Sunday turned into anything but ordinary. A boy, a bike, the intersection, a traffic light, my car propelling him 50+ feet, the thump, his young body hitting the parkway pavement. I had no feeling of being scared. No feeling of what have I done, but rather a deep recognition of being fully present in the moment. There was no guilt, no regret, only a deep feeling of connection. I felt a thin thread of light joining our heart energies together, he and I. I got out of the car, and I walked slowly toward his body on the ground, the thread pulling us closer. My left hand went to my heart, and my right hand lifted palm out. I could sense the noise and chaos as people ran about. Some were crying, sirens wailed in the distance. As I was magnetically pulled to the boy, those around him cleared a path. And although I was conscious of my movements, I was not the one in control. The Gayatri mantra continued to flow through me silently and effortlessly. I was not moving. I was being moved. My heart was orchestrating both my movements and my breath. I went to my knees near his lifeless body. My left hand remained on my heart, and my right hand went to his heart. As I touched him, a quiet calmness descended. I became aware of more threads of silver light coming from every direction, above and below, in front, behind, from everywhere, even the trees and the plants, all of which streamed to the boy. A deep breath filled my whole body. My eyes closed. There was no separation. There was no skin and bones, no form, only the sensation of the thin threads of pure light energy joining us as one. After placing my hand on him, I felt as if my next breath was a breath of the universe, a breath he and I somehow shared. Another breath, and another breath. And then I felt our chest expand simultaneously. I heard an audible inhalation from him and a slight whimper in the whispered words, "Thank you." Our eyes opened and locked. Then the boy slowly got up and started to walk toward his bike. I stood, but I did not move. My rational mind was waking up. I noticed a dark-haired woman in steel blue scrubs standing still, just feet from me, looking peaceful. She held what looked to be a portable defibrillator in her hand. We caught eyes. "It's impossible," she said. "He had no vital signs, and now he's moving like nothing happened." Her words jolted me back into my body, but my mind was still calm. I began to sense the commotion around me. A man standing next to the woman said the words that shot me back into full reality. "Oh my God, that man just brought that boy back to life." Inside I was calm, but I knew in my heart I was forever changed. Woo! Yeah. Okay. Whoa, right? So I know that's chapter 5, and that seems like the climax, right? But I guarantee it is only the beginning. Let's take a deep breath. I do teach meditation. So anyway, all right. So I know that that seems like the climax, but it's really only the beginning. That is the moment right there that I just read to you that gets the whole ball rolling for Ren and Sean. It brings all kinds of new experiences and new people into their lives. So I'd like to introduce you now to one of these new people who is throughout the book. It's the character of Dottie, an uber wealthy philanthropist from old Cincinnati money. She is a true character. And to quote our creative manuscript editor, "I love me some Dottie." Chapter 9, The 90-Year-Old Witness. The miracle quickly became the catchphrase for what happened between me and the boy. Social media was a buzz. Social media and news outlets were a buzz with eyewitness accounts and videos. Sean and I watched the local evening news on my laptop as they interviewed a 90-year-old woman who had a very unique perspective on the incident. The segment opened with a close-up of her face, and the news ticker read, "Dottie Gant, eyewitness." "I asked you here," the elderly woman said, "so I could share with you my vantage point. As you can see, being on the 36th floor, I have a bird's eye view of where William Howard Taft Road and Columbia Parkway merge. The camera widened to show her dramatically framed in a floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked the parkway. Impeccably dressed, in a coral tweed couture fitted business suit, she pointed out the window and down. I was doing what I do every morning, reciting my prayers right here in this chair. She placed her hand on an ornate Chippendale design chair. Yes, every morning I sit here with a cup of tea in my rosary. A beautiful, clear glass beaded rosary was wound around her hand. Sunday was the final day of a novena to Mary as the Queen of Heaven. I've been praying for world peace. I watched as the boy sped down the hill and entered the intersection. I saw the impact with the car. I stood and I stepped closer to the window, holding my breath as the poor little boy lay still on the ground. That's when I said out loud, "May the benevolent Queen of Heaven bring peace to those in front of me." I know it sounds crazy, but instantly my whole body was overcome with tranquility. I may be old, but I'm not senile. I'm a businesswoman. I pay attention to current local and economic trends, and I still do my own investments. I like facts and figures. Now, with that disclaimer, I want you to believe me when I tell you, as the man knelt next to the boy on the ground, the people all around him began to shine like stars. I saw luminescent orbs on the road instead of people, and they were all connected by thin streams of light. It was stunning. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It was the most stunning thing I have ever seen. More beautiful than my view of the city. More beautiful than any place I have been fortunate to travel. I knew my prayer was heard. If I could still physically get down on my knees, I would have. But in lieu of that, I said, "Thank you." All the news accounts report that the boy said thank you to the yoga teacher. I know with certainty I was saying thank you at the same time. Something extraordinary is going on here. That's why I needed to speak out. That's why I called the station. We need to pay attention. I've met 3 popes and 4 presidents in my life. Now I plan to meet this miracle man and see what's going on. Who is he? How did he do this? We need more miracles in our world. Oh my God. I was so captivated by this woman and her retelling of the story. But I have to admit, I wish she were talking about someone other than me. My head was spinning. So I opened my journal and I wrote down my thoughts. I'm as confused as everyone about what happened Sunday on the Parkway. Were the bright lights emanating from everyone at the scene related to my Times Square vision and what Veronica had said in my dream? How do Abhaya Mudra and the Gayatri Mantra and my experimentation with Pada 3 of the Yoga Sutras play into this? Have I opened a yogic Pandora's box? Back to me. So our main character, Ren, is not the only one who has interesting dreams. In all seriousness, back when I was like 28 to 30, I had this series of dreams during my Saturn return, where I would have, I had these visitations of this council of advisors. Literally, I would walk into a boardroom through these huge double stainless steel doors, and the council would sit behind a long table, and I would sit on the other side, a few feet away, facing them, and they would give me advice on life. So you can imagine, at that time, I was really questioning my sanity. So here's my buddy Ren's experience based on my reality. As his counsel, he realizes are the gods and goddesses of his astrological chart. And they're giving him clues to the path that he's walking, which is to face the cliches of yoga. In yoga, it is said there are 5 obstacles that we as humans all face: ignorance, ego, attachment, aversion, and the fear of death. All right, now remember, this is Ren now, his fiction life. Chapter 10, Return of the Council. In that night's dream state, I found myself once again, after nearly 30 years, standing in front of the towering stainless steel doors. I took a deep breath, and I pulled open the giant doors enough to step in, and there they were, the council, all 10 of them, still looking like a group of scientists in starched white lab coats, sitting behind the large conference table. The men were all clean-shaven and well-groomed. The women had their hair pulled back in ponytails or wound up in knots on their heads. But the atmosphere of the room was palpable with power. "Hi, folks," I said with a wave. It's been a long time. Can you kind of explain to me what's going on?" I recognized Saturn immediately as he rose from his seat at the middle of the table. "Yes, Ren, it has been a while, especially in your concept of linear time. As you may remember, I am Saturn in Capricorn." I gave a slight bow of my head. "Yes, sir, I remember you well and have felt your presence every day of my life. I've often felt weighted down by you, but as I've grown and evolved, I've realized you are the taskmaster who provides the patience and endurance that I need to reach my goals." Saturn narrowed his eyes. "You are correct in my description, although a bit one-sided." "Oh, really, sir?" I said. The last thing I wanted to do was tick him off. "I get it," he said, "but you're only identifying with a partial worn-out view of me. Remember, in Tantra, there is always a combination of light and dark." "Oh, I'm your student, sir," I said. "What am I missing?" "Well, besides ruling the structures of life, I also represent the father energy in the zodiac. And in that role, I am here to help you decide whether to use your newly found powers for material gain or spiritual evolution. Will you climb the ladder of success for your own ego, or will you climb the spiritual mountain to enhance the whole? Whether you see me as a loving, supportive paternal energy or a hardcore taskmaster matters not. Either way, you face the universal law of cause and effect, karma, and that is my domain also." "Sir, I think I may have started off on the wrong foot." "No, we have started off exactly as we need. I am back, acting as the gatekeeper to the rest of your council of heavenly bodies, including your co-chair." He looked to his left and then to his right. "Co-chair, sir? I know you as the force that stands alone in my chart." "We are all involved in your journey, Ren. But you are correct that you chose me to orchestrate much of this incarnation. You and I have a long history and a long way to go. As for the co-chair, they will reveal themselves in due time. Their presence is currently flowering in your heart." I studied the faces of the others, wondering who my co-chair could be, but each council member remained expressionless. "To address your initial question about what is going on, can you be more specific?" "Well, with respect to what happened on Columbia Parkway, did the boy come back from the dead, or..." What do you think? Asked a woman at the far and left side of the table. Her face was perfectly round, her skin milky white, and her silvery eyes sparkled like opals. You must be the moon. Excellent observation. Now, what does your emotional inner knowing tell you about the boy? Well, I know if it's not your time to go, it's not your time. Astrology says that you have to have a death aspect in your chart at the time of an accident, or death won't happen. You know, like the one person out of many who survives a plane crash. Maybe it just wasn't Mike's time to go. Oh, you've been studying on so many levels, said the moon. Congratulations, your studies have helped you diminish the first cliche, the ignorance of avidya. And I might add, Saturn said with a slight smile, you've done quite well since our last appearance in educating not only yourself but others. You've made good use of my discipline as explained in Sutra 113 to alleviate this first cause of suffering. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you for acknowledging my efforts to learn and grow. And yes, Sutra 113 seems to be very important, as do the yoga cliches that you're all mentioning. But that doesn't really explain what's going on or why I'm involved. Then a woman at the opposite end of the table from the moon spoke. Facing the yogic cliches and understanding Sutra 113 has more to do with what's going on than you know. For goddess sake, we brought a statue back to life to get your hum. Saturn cleared his throat. I did not remember this warrior-like woman from my encounters 30 years ago. There was this air of power about her that exuded strength and confidence. Besides study, the last time we visited you, the commanding woman continued, we also advised you to meditate to calm your mind and access your inner strength. How do you feel that worked for you? She bounced the eraser of her pencil on the table. Well, meditation changed my life. It led me to find a deeper place inside me, I said. But deep enough to overcome the challenges of ego coming at you from every direction like a freight train, she asked. I assumed Bhaya Mudra. Instantly, my fear was replaced with the strength of conviction. Yes, I said, deep enough to face the challenges of ego. Good, she said. You're going to need to hone your meditations and tap into a deeper place in your heart to move forward. Our eyes locked. Look, she said, I'm not as Pollyanna about you getting this right as are my colleagues. Get what right, I asked. And who are you anyway? I don't just listen. We represent the aspects of your astrological chart. We, your inner gurus, are the summation of the energies that constitute your higher self. The only answers we give you are the ones that are already inside you, because we are you, and you are us, and we live here. That's why it's vital you open your heart this time and get on with the task at hand. The task at hand. I don't understand, I said, trying to keep her eye contact. You will, said Saturn. Keep meditating. I give the discipline needed to apply the effort to cultivate a tranquil state of mind. Oh God, I hear Sutra 113, I said. Saturn nodded. Continue to concentrate and meditate in the space of higher consciousness, where you will recognize the barriers of ego and eventually learn how to dissolve them permanently. Well, sir, barriers of all kinds are dissolving. I have moments where there is no separation between me and other people. I felt it with the boy. I have the overwhelming sense of being connected with everything right now. It's lovely, but is this the dissolving of ego, or is this just part of my imagination? Yes, said all 10. My eyes opened. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Oh, don't let that be the end. Damn, I need some answers. But instead of ruminating on the dream, I deepened my breath and I let go of the mental chatter. And this message bubbled up from my heart. This isn't about knowing the answers. This is about allowing myself to open to all the possibilities. This journey will lead me to uncover the diamond of my heart that radiates love and yearns for connection with everything, a connection of oneness. With another deep sigh, my heart opened a little more, and I felt a hint of a smile come to my face. Wow, huh? Yeah. So the main characters have been introduced. You've met the council, and you know the premise pretty much for what's happening. Saturn has said that Ren has done well in educating himself and others, so he's faced that first cliche of ignorance. But ego is next. Can you imagine your own ego if the world thought you raised the dead? Seriously. So, ego shows up in some really wild forms for Ren. A concert at Bogart's. That's a really wild chapter. You'll have to read that one. And then, through a haunting invitation from the Catholic Church, an institution Ren thought that he left behind years ago. You'll have to read that one too. But okay, let's keep going. So, on your chair was what looks like a bookmark. But for tonight, it is your holy card. See if you can pick that up and just have it in front of you. Looks like this. And if you don't have it, it's no big deal. You can look at it later. Get it later. It'll be good. It's good. Okay. All right. Okay, so Sean studies yoga and astrology right along with Ren, okay? But Sean's a little more analytical, skeptical, and at times downright sarcastic. So he didn't grow up Catholic, so he doesn't get or understand the whole religion thing. But in a moment of desperation, when he feels Ren is being carried away by a cyclone of ego, Sean makes a plea of frustration during a disagreement they're having. Chapter 18, The Veiled Ones. Sean dropped his book. Oh, holy Hindu goddess, are you for real? He slid to the edge of his seat and raised his hands high. Will someone help me, please? Sean yelled. Open his eyes to reality. Cover him in holy water. Do something to wake him up. Well, that night, Ren finds himself in front of his statue friends again. But this time, it is Saint Clare of Assisi and not Veronica who heard Sean's request. In place of holy water, I cover you with a veil of vision. May it bring light and clarity into your being, Claire said, leaning forward and covering my head. Heed the messages. I inhaled, and I bowed my head to accept the veil. With my next breath, I heard a different female voice. As if removing the hood of a jacket, I pushed back the veil, and I found myself standing among a small group of people, listening to a woman who was speaking English with a heavy Italian accent. Clare's basilica is 800 years old, she said. Construction began in 1257 over the pre-existing church of San Giorgio, and it was completed in 1260. Just curious. A familiar voice said to the guide. I turned. It was Sean. Why is he here? Did Claire perform miracles? Sean asked, not hiding his sarcasm. Well, the guide said, besides saving Assisi from a violent invasion by holding up a monstrance housing the sacred host, legend says Claire could see things miles away through what many called her inner sixth sense. Sixth sense, huh? Sean said with even more sarcasm. Sounds like pot of three superpowers to me. I bet she did a lot of meditating. Sean, I said, walking toward him, what are you doing here? Well, what do you mean? Well, you just asked someone to throw holy water on me. But instead, St. Clair placed a veil over my head, and now we're on a tour in her basilica in Italy, and are you all right? Sean looked as confused as I felt. Forget it, I said, just forget it. Come on, let's walk around, Sean said. This tour is boring. He took my hand and we walked the perimeter of the church. On the far side of the nave, we saw a small chapel with a large group of people gathered at its entrance. Let's check it out, Sean said. There was no order to the queue. It was like a huge human amoeba gently sliding people through a doorway that acted as a sieve. Eventually, we were funneled through the wooden doorway into a small chamber, dimly lit by 2 wrought iron candle stands at the far end of the room and hundreds of votive candles flickering on the 3-foot-thick sills of the dark stained glass windows that lined the right side of the room. A soft murmur of whispers filled the air. We were slowly jostled forward towards a mahogany lattice with diamond-shaped openings. What is this place? I asked, turning to Sean, only to find the crowd had separated us, and he was now a half a room away. We waved to each other as we inched forward. I could see the people with the lattice reach for something being offered from the other side of the wooden tracery. As I was moved closer, I saw 2 nuns dressed in full-length, belted tunics and veils behind the ornate structure. They also wore black sateen gloves and an intricate piece of black lace that from a distance concealed their facial features. Little sisters of poverty, the followers of St. Clair, I thought. A half step at a time, I drew closer until finally I could make out the visage of the nun closest to me through her veil. Her beautiful features were dark, too dark to be Italian. I watched her with fascination. She made eye contact with no one as she quickly moved along her half of the 25-foot screen, silently passing cards through the intricately carved openings to those on the other side. I soon realized they were holy cards, like the ones given out at Catholic funerals. Usually one side of the card is a depiction of either Mary or Jesus, and the other side has an appropriate prayer. Finally, I stepped forward. She made her way toward me. With only the screen separating us, I saw her almond-shaped eyes and her exquisite features. She looks Indian. Is this the Hindu goddess? Sean called on for help. Then unexpectedly, her eyes raised to meet mine. Keeping eye contact, she slid a card toward me. Her lips parted slightly, and for a split second, I thought she was going to speak. But with no words, she released the card, gazed back at the floor, and moved on. I slipped the card into my pocket. I was funneled back through the chapel doors, and I saw Sean making his way out of the cathedral. I followed him to an open-air plaza. Something weird is going on, Ren, he said, his voice shaky. That nun, she wanted to say something to me. She stared directly at me. He shook the card in his hand. This has something to do with goddesses and your council wanting your attention. Was your nun Indian? I nodded. Yeah. How many Hindu nuns are there in Italy? And just 2 of them happen to be working at the Cathedral of St. Clair on the same day? Sean, I was just as confused. Maybe, let me see your card. I pulled the holy card from my pocket and I held it out to show him. An illustration of St. Clair holding a monstrance of protection. What's printed on the back, he asked. Before I could answer, he said, mine says, in English, face asmita, drop ego, do not go to Italy, expect a miracle, wake up, PUTP. I looked at my card to see 4 of the 5 same lines printed in cardinal red. Well, mine says the same thing, but nothing about Italy. Sean turned to an elderly woman who was walking near us. Excuse me, do you speak English? Piccolo, she responded. May I please see your card? She handed it to him and he turned it over. Grazie mille, he said as he handed it back to her. I watched him comb the plaza and asked several others to see their cards. He shook his head as he walked back to me. Of all the cards that those nuns are handing out, he said, ours are the only ones that don't have the prayer of St. Clair on the back. Well, that's strange, I said, trying to remain calm. Yeah, it's strange. It's even stranger that ours say, expect a miracle? He raised his hand to stop me from interjecting. And wake up, which is what goddesses and councils and lead singers and rock bands are telling you to do. And what about drop ego? Coincidence? Sean, no, let me finish, he said. Does PUTP have some Catholic meaning? I shook my head. I didn't think so. This isn't random, he said. There's only 3 people on the whole planet who know what PUTP means to us. You, me, and Carol. Pick up the pace. That's what Carol says when she's trying to get us to hurry up. Where are these messages coming from and why? He began to pace back and forth. I remained silent and took some deep breaths. Of the hundreds of people going through there, he said, those Hindu nuns knew to give those 2 specific cards to us? Who are they? Sean, we weren't even in there together and they knew. And mine says, don't go to Italy. But yours doesn't. What's going on, Ren? Look, buddy, I know this is weird, but please don't freak out, I said. I am freaked out. He looked down at his card, then back at me. It's as if something is watching us. I hugged him. My mind was also full of questions. Why are we in Italy at a Catholic cathedral? Am I supposed to pick up the pace? Am I stuck in a spiral with ego that I can't even see? I know it's unsettling, I said, but it's okay. Should we go back in there and ask those nuns some questions? Sean, our answers aren't in there. They're in here, buddy. Deep inside is the only place I can think where we might find some answers. Sean took a deep breath. You're better at that than I am. What can I do, he asked. Well, I said, to start with, help me keep an eye on my ego. And for both our sakes, be very, very careful what you ask for. With that, Italy was gone. I was alone in our treehouse bedroom. I ran to the first floor where Sean was sleeping on the couch. Drama! So you don't have to look now because it's a little dark in here. But eventually you're going to want to see if you have either Ren's card or Sean's card by knowing if you're going to Italy or not. And there's some other things I want to entice you about. I want to ask you questions that you'll be able to answer after you read the book. What about an archbishop who is soon to be a cardinal, who makes an offer to Ren that he can't refuse? And what about 3 white owls in a cathedral? And can an irate goddess with a cauldron get Ren's attention? I'm teasing you in case you didn't notice. So that was the part of the story dealing with the obstacle of ego. in another part of the story, Ren and Sean face two more of these cliche obstacles, attachment and aversion. Let me see a show of hands if anybody has any attachments. Okay? Maybe your partner, I don't know, or ice cream or something. Okay. And maybe it's better if anybody who doesn't have any. What about aversions of any kind? Snakes or rats? Okay, we've all got that, right? So now Ren feels the lessons around attachment and aversion are coming at him in this part of the story, and he's nervous because, like many of us, Ren, our main character, deals with self-doubt, even after a miracle. His counsel is baiting him for this attachment and aversion part of his story. So let's get back to it. Chapter 40, The Earthen Mound. Within seconds of my head resting on the pillow, I found myself walking through a dense forest just after sunrise. The morning dew was heavy on the foliage, and the air was cool and moist as it crossed my nostrils. Clothed in only a t-shirt, jeans, and gym shoes, I was chilled, but not uncomfortable. After several minutes, I came face to face with a mound of earth 4 times my height. Its surface was wet and covered with fluorescent green moss. It wasn't part of some hillside. Rather, it just stood alone, free from the surroundings, as if the earth had birthed it out of itself. I knew walking around it and continuing wasn't an option. I had come here today, through this wooded area, to see it. I stood observing it, and I felt it observe me. I took a few steps closer. Now I noticed under some long hanging moss a 4-foot wide opening. It was an entryway into the earth itself. I stepped closer, hoping to see something, but instead, I felt a magnetic pull. I could resist its tug from where I stood, but then I felt the magnetism increase, so I stepped back. I had to step back again and again and again and again until from the top of my lungs I yelled, "No! No, no, no! I'm not going in! You can't make me! No, no!" I shouted at the opening of the earthen mound as if it were a living thing. One part of me wanted to be drawn into the warmth and comforting darkness of the earth's universal womb. But a lightning bolt of terror lit up another part of me. What if I never return? Just stay with what you know, Ren. Stay with what you know. Yeah, but to stay with what is safe suffocates the life force. This is meant that you're meant to change and grow. The council says there's more lessons with the cliches coming. Maybe this is an opportunity. Yeah, but you've already gone through so many life-altering transformations. I'm just going to say no. Out of frustration with this internal back and forth, I jumped up and down and stomped my feet like a 5-year-old in a tantrum. No! No! No, I won't go! You can't make me! I said it! I mean it! No! Then I stood still, staring at it. The only sound in the forest was my rapidly beating heart. After a few moments, my breath returned to an even inhale and exhale, and my heart rate slowed to normal. Softly and under my breath, I said 2 words. Not yet. What do you guys think? Do you think he goes in? Well, there's one way for you to find out. Guess what it is? Buy the book. So you get the picture overall that our
desk, Rob. Front of the desk.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
The wizard.
So, You get the picture. Our two main characters are energetically connected to each other. In Sanskrit, attachment is called raga. That's what this one's about. These two characters are so in sync that in one part of the story, they have the exact same meditation. It's so exact, except down to the very end. Now, in both of their experiences, Sean gives Ren a key, a verbal key to keep in his heart. Love yourself, forgive yourself, and then Ren enters the boardroom of his council while the doors slam shut in Sean's face. Chapter 43, Life Without. I stood with my hands in a Abhaya Mudra, the familiar stainless steel doors behind me. I once again faced my council of 10. We know you encountered the earthen mound, said Venus. Yes, and while sitting near it, Sean and I had this same weird meditation. Refusing the earth's invitation in your dream led to the need for your mutual experience, she explained. The mound is offering you both an opportunity to clear karmic residue specific to raga and devesha. We are pleased, you said, not yet, which denotes your willingness to eventually venture in. Look, goddess, I know what I said, but I am not ready. Willingness, Ren, is an important part of spiritual involution, Venus said. It's time you willingly move through the gateway the mound offers. Her intonation had its usual hypnotic allure. What is this all about? Athena now spoke. There are obstacles you must face to clear the path to the future. Soon, you'll again be at that earthen entrance into infinity, and there will be a note. Contemplate it and let it unfold. Along with your practices, draw on the patience of Saturn and the power of the feminine to unearth the deeper meaning of your past and the current cliches of attachment and aversion that you are about to face. Oh my God, you're cloaking something in intense poetic camouflage. I just know it. But what if this lesson is beyond me? No lesson is beyond you, Athena continued. Just remember to fill yourself with love rather than fear and keep close all you've cultivated through your years of practice. I sighed and sat down in a chair. Oh, come on, my celestial counterparts, said a man near the center of the table who until now had not said a word, taking a stance like an emperor addressing the Roman Senate. He was muscular with a curly light brown beard and dazzling blue eyes. He held a lightning bolt in his right hand. I cannot remain silent any longer. His voice resonated with a bass tone, and he now gestured like a Shakespearean actor. You're acting like this is his sepulcher, when in reality our ward is about to begin an adventure to expand his mind and usher in a profound understanding of what human life is and all that it can be. Jupiter, I said, applauding his over-the-top performance. In my humble opinion, Jupiter said, taking another full dramatic bow. You're ready. Yes, I know, Saturn, la la la. And Venus is your co-chair, more la la la. But I rule your Sagittarius moon. Therefore, I know you will find what's coming emotionally exciting. And his eyes widened as he pointed at me. You get to teach. Teach, I said. Yes! His voice rose to a thunderous boom, and his hands gestured over his head. You, my friend, are about to embark on... Wait one moment, Saturn demanded. I doubt very much you'll approach what's coming in the Indiana Jones style that Jupiter suggests. Let me remind you this journey is happening for a reason. Make sure to experience everything down to the depths of your physical cells and into the memories of your past lives. You're about to dance with the sister cliches of raga and devesha. Attachment and aversion, I know, but why? This is the next phase, Saturn said. You're prepared for this. And you're as ready as you'll ever be, so breathe deep. Keep your heart open and dance as you will. We are all with you. Hold the key your beloved gave close. Thank you, I said, acknowledging him and then the entire council. With a downward sweep of Saturn's hands, my eyes closed. In one blink, I was back outside, only inches from the entrance of the earthen mound. Within reach, balanced on the root of a plant, was the note Athena mentioned. The parchment paper fixed with the wax stamp looked and felt to be from another century. The seal was embossed with the stylized monogram, RD, my initials.
Raga and devesha.
Have attachment and aversion been so important to my evolution that my name has held a clue for me my entire life? Then, as if someone flicked a switch, I felt the pulsating magnetic pull from the hole. I backed up several feet. I heard Sean's voice.
Ren, if that invitation comes up again, please don't go.
Was Sean tapping into his fears or his intuition, I wondered. I opened the antique envelope and I unfolded the parchment. The text was illegible, but as I started to stare at the page, I started to make sense of Old English script, something I was familiar with from my graduate studies. But the ability to read this 15th century cursive came back to me. Or is this pot of three once again seeping into my life as needed? Welcome to your other life, friend. All humans forever move back and forth between the role of the teacher and the student. Teacher, it is time to go back to school to learn the lessons of the soul, RD, and reconcile the injuries of the heart. Many paths are possible. You are always surrounded by the many and never alone. Choosing loneliness will kill your spirit. Experiencing aloneness will set you free. Love yourself, forgive yourself, and face RD, always and forever. Although I was unclear of its meaning, I placed the note on my heart and then I slipped it into my pocket. Sean's key and always and forever, both written at the close, were very comforting.
Come inside.
Who said that? I held my breath.
Come inside.
This time the words were louder and unmistakably coming from the earth itself.
Come inside, come inside, come inside, come inside, come inside.
I was pulled several steps towards the dark opening of the earthen mound as the magnetic force grew stronger. I leaned back, but I was drawn closer and closer. I felt fear, but also excitement. And then allow the magnetic radiance of oneness to envelop you. A soothing voice said inside, let go. With my next exhale, I surrendered. What felt like the winds of a cyclone sucked me over the threshold and thrust me into solid blackness. I was suspended, levitating in a state of weightlessness, hovering in an eerie silence. Then, off in the distance, I heard soft, tranquil violins. The lullaby relaxed me in my suspended state until the volume on the celestial stereo gradually increased and thousands of violins played at such a fevered pitch that the vibratory force of the frantic stringed instruments propelled me horizontally at a superhuman speed into the depths of the earth. Cool, brisk air whisked over my body as the sound pushed me deeper and deeper through the darkness at what felt like the speed of light. I was hurtling back, but back to what? I had no idea. Then whoosh, I slowed to a standstill. Except for my heavy breathing and pounding heart, all was silent. Then I felt butterflies of anticipation in my solar plexus. I looked to my feet to see a sliver of light, which began to grow as a curtain or a mystical veil began to rise. I followed its ascent into the ethers, and then I looked straight out in front of me. More than 100 people were seated in an amphitheater, silent and staring at me. Professor Devlin, said a petite blonde sitting in the first row, this might be a good place to stop. You're already 5 minutes over.
No, let him finish, Paulette. We have to know how it ends. Finish the story.
I was standing at a podium in a large classroom in McMicken Hall at the University of Cincinnati. Next time, my friends. Why did I just say that? Just like a good mini-series, I need to keep you coming back for more. Have a great day. I gave myself a slap on the face and shook my head as the students moved from the room. What has my counsel done? Dr. D, I'll have the quizzes graded by the end of the week, said the young woman walking up to the podium. That would be great, Paulette, but give me a handful. I know this woman, but how? Well, I can do them. I mean, I know that you still have to tackle a lot of research for your new book. A new book. Quizzes. My former university. Are you going back to your office? Probably. I just wonder where my office is. May I walk with you? I'd like to borrow a couple books, if that's okay. Of course, I said. Still feeling out of my body, we climbed a flight of stairs. The fog lifted a little when I saw Dr. Reynolds Devlin written on a familiar door. This was my former history mentor's office when I was a student. Is it now mine? Paulette unlocked the door with the key, and we walked inside. Bookcases filled one wall. Two large windows were opposite the door, and a large dark wooden desk with a clunky push-button phone faced the bookshelves. Paulette went over to the books, and I walked behind the desk, hoping for more clues. There was a small piece of paper taped to the phone. Dr. D, your wife wants you to call her. My wife? Paulette, this note says that my wife called. I don't have a... I stopped and blinked, trying to compose myself. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I meant to tell you before you went into lecture. Lisa says it's nothing urgent, but she wants you to call her before you leave campus. She may need you to pick up Josh. Josh? Yeah, your star athlete's son might need a ride home from practice, she smiled. Wife? Lisa? Josh, son? I grabbed the edge of the desk with both hands and felt the blood drain from my head. Are you all right, Dr. D? I need to sit down. Well, if you have other things going on, I can pick up Josh for you, she said. I was on the verge of hyperventilating. Josh is my brother's son, not mine. I tried to slow my breath. Will you get me some water? I feel lightheaded. Of course, I'll be right back. As she stepped from the bookshelves, I saw it. I slowly walked to the middle shelf. And I picked up the framed picture. 3 familiar faces stared back at me. A younger me with my arm around my former girlfriend Lisa and my nephew Joshua, looking to be about 9 years old. Somehow, they are now my wife and son. What is this? Raga and Devesha. And where is Sean? Here's some water, Doc. Paulette held out a glass to me, a look of concern on her face. I gulped it. Paulette, did you ever meet my brother and his wife? I asked, dreading the answer. No, Dr. D, but I bet they were great people. Josh is such a fantastic kid, she said, placing her hand on my shoulder. I turned towards the bookshelves and I began to cry. Can I do anything for you? She asked. You just don't seem yourself right now. I'm not myself. Going home. I'll see you tomorrow. Transfixed on the photo, I heard Paulette pick up her book bag and close the door behind her. And I sobbed. I sobbed ancient tears for my brother and his wife, my nephew, who is now my son, for Lisa, and for Sean. This existence could have been, but why am I here? Where is Sean? Oh, dear Goddess, will I ever see him again? Are you guys intrigued? Wow, huh? Well, look, we're almost there. And we want to thank you for being here, and we hope that we have ignited some interest to read this whole story, or listen to me read it to you on audio, and to help us spread the story, which Steve and I really feel like is a story and a message of hope and love. We're going to end with just one short section, and we wanted to end with this because there's a goddess blessing in it that we want to leave you with. So, a little background. In the one point, our main characters, Sean and Ren, are discussing how divided the world is, when in actuality, we are more similar than different. We all belong to one human family. It can be just really hard to remember sometimes. Chapter 64, Killing Love. Well, you're back in the limelight, Sean said as we sat on the plane. You'd think another miracle in your talk of love and united souls would inspire everyone, but there are those who want to kill love. Tears welled in my eyes. Sean, no one can kill love. I know, Reno. He reached over and held my hand. But right now, things don't seem to be going in the right direction. I know, that's why we have to do this, I said with a big exhale. Later, as we sat waiting for takeoff, I wrote in my journal, as sure as I am of the existence of my own soul, I know love cannot be killed. Love is the glue of the universe. It holds us together. It can't be diminished. It's an invisible bond that is always present. Love's the nectar that transforms the bitter taste of poison. It's the flame that illuminates the darkness. Darkness is not the absence of love, for love holds all things, even darkness. I leaned back in my seat, silently called on the goddesses in all her forms. Ayim, Hreem, Shreem, Kleem. You're really quiet, Sean said. I'm trying to keep my mind focused on the moment rather than jump ahead to tomorrow. You know, Sean, one journey ends as another begins. As the plane accelerated down the runway, closing my eyes, I slid into the depth of my being, and I found myself standing in front of the council chamber doors. I pushed one door open slightly. and I slid in. The members were all present, sitting in their usual seats. Their hands were folded in front of them, wearing their mythical garb. I walked to my chair, but I remained standing. There was one glaring difference from all the other encounters. Each of them had a single piece of silver duct tape placed over their mouth. Well, why am I here if you're not going to talk to me? Are we going to do this telepathically? I guess your silence is its own message. Look, tomorrow will be what it'll be. And I am definitely going to lead from my heart full of love rather than fear. There's a struggle between the two right now. I feel it in me, and I see it in the world. I want you to know I am different from when this journey began, and I have deep gratitude for all your intensity. I smiled. The fires you made me walk through, they were opportunities, and more than ever, I know every moment is sacred. They sat in their taped silence. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. I turned, and I took a few steps towards the doors. Then I stopped and I turned back. Now, their hands were all in Abhaya Mudra. I joined them, and I said, I'm not afraid of my life or what is in my heart. I swallowed. This feels like goodbye. You're not going to disappear again for another 30 years, are you? Venus, the moon, and Athena stood. They pulled the tape from their lips and in unison said, May you be blessed by the holy waters of love. Tears streamed down my face. Venus spoke. There are no endings, only new beginnings. I know, I said, wiping the tears from my cheeks. You did not forget us, she said with just a trace of a grin. Nor will we ever forget you, because we are you and you are us. I sighed. A familiar love squeeze on my forearm brought me back to myself.
We're about to land.
Sean whispered. Well, that was fast.
You doing okay?
Oh, yeah. The goddesses of love are surrounding us for sure.
I feel them too.
And may the goddesses of love surround all of you. May you be blessed by the holy waters of love, and may hope always live in your heart. Thank you for joining us.